Welcome, Alex, my brother, to the Dating Intentionally podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It is so great to be with you in person.
I know. This is the first in-person episode, right?
Technically, yeah. Like, I've recorded with Johnny, but not in the same room.
Whoa.
So, whoa, I know.
And we have a third guest here, Coconut, my niece.
If you're watching on YouTube, you will see Coconut sitting between us.
Yes, it's very cute
She
little
will
dog.
be participating.
You going to answer some questions for us?
Probably.
Yeah.
So, okay, today we are talking about in-person dating.
Awesome.
And I have a lot of questions for you, but just catch us up to where you are right now. Like, last time you were on the show, it was spring. Have you been dating this year at all?
Yeah, I got back into dating a few months ago and got back on the apps and was quickly kind of realizing that it was a great way to meet people kind of in quantity, but not the place where I was finding people that I really wanted to engage with in quality. I think that my learning became that every time I went on a date that was over the apps, it felt more like an interview than like a date. And I really wanted to focus on meeting someone in person because I felt like those would be much more genuine and just enjoyable adventures to go on with someone versus an interview that was are we the right person for each other because we're both here for that thing.
Do you think that there's any way to break out of the interview mode on apps? Why do you think it's you start with more of an interview mode than compared to meeting people in person?
I think that people are tired. I think that we've all had these time wastes in the online dating space where it's you have texted back and forth and a date doesn't happen, or you have a first date and nothing comes of it. And so you kind of just want to know as soon as possible whether or not there really is potential. And that means that you just very, very quickly leap to asking the hard questions. And so it's, do you want kids? What are your political views? Do our values align, et cetera, which are all the right questions to ask in dating.
Yeah.
But I think you really jump on them because you just don't want to waste time because it does kind of have this repetitive cycle that happens with date after date.
That makes sense. But do you mean you're asking these questions in person or on the apps?
I think that people have different approaches to it.
What was yours?
For me, it's in person. I kind of take the chance on going on the date and seeing what happens when I get there. But I do think that when you are on date 1 or 2, you get to some of these more heavier questions, and because you just don't want to spend 2 months dating someone realize, at least in my point in life, I'm 31 years old and I'm really thoughtful about who I'm dating and how I'm spending my time. You don't want to find yourself 2 months and be oh, I wish I'd asked whether or not this person wants kids because I want them, they don't. So What are we doing here?
Yeah, no, it all makes sense. Just my question is more just why do the dating apps introduce this interview energy? Because you're still asking those questions when you meet people in person. Maybe you're just asking them a little bit later. Maybe there's more to talk about because you have more context because you met in person somewhere. So it's you have other things to talk about.
Yeah, I think that there's this skepticism in quantity that happens where it's because me nebulous dater, not me Alex, but because I as a dater can go on a number of dates, I go into them with how do I cull the crop is kind of the idea. That's almost the initial feeling. It's how do I will this down to the right person versus when you have that meet cute or you meet someone in person in real life and it's an introduction to a friend, it's this kind of precious thing, it's special to you because it stands out. It is the different, it is the other. And so you go in with more of this I want to make this work because it's exciting kind of approach versus how do I make sure this isn't just one of the other people that I've met on the apps, the hundreds of people I swiped on down to the 10 people I've chatted with and the 5 that I went on dates with.
I hear what you're saying, and it's to me, in my experience, it all kind of gloms together. It's the people you meet in person and the people you meet on the apps, you're still dating all of them. You're still meeting them all. So it's to me, it's what's the difference? But how they come into your life, you still have to go through the process of getting to know them, figuring each other out, seeing if there's chemistry, seeing if you can banter, seeing if there's alignment, like you mentioned. It all leads to the same place.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that one thing we can think about as a very, very tangible thing is the filters people put on online dating versus in person, right? When you meet someone in person at a party or through a friend or something, you don't have that list of things about them that tell you yes or no, check mark X, etc. And I think
you have to do more legwork.
Yeah.
So, that's fair.
But I think that also it means that you end up meeting people that actually could be a match for you, even though they don't meet your digital filters. And I think that the relationship I was in for 5 years would have never happened. It was a meet online, but I had Johns Hopkins written in my education, but I didn't finish college. And one of her non-negotiables was a guy who has finished college, who has a career that's set on that path. And once we had the talking on date 1 or 2, and she realized like, oh, just because he doesn't have a degree doesn't mean he doesn't have a good career ahead of him and he's not excited to work. And so like if we had just gone by like the filters of her rules, we would have never actually, made something happen. So I think it's important that people find, whether they meet on apps or off apps, I think it happens more off apps, that they're not using their digital filters as like the absolute yes, no binary, will I go out with this person? Because there are great people out there that aren't going to fit your filters exactly.
Yes. And you heard him say it. There are great people out there. Okay. There are great people out there. Okay. So talk to me about the mixers and singles events you've gone to this year, because look, I'm jealous. I didn't get to go to this stuff because I was dating at the end of the pandemic. So it wasn't happening yet in my journey. I'm like sad that I missed out on these experiences. So tell us what kind of events you've been to in the city.
Yeah, it's been a mixture of things. Some have been things that friends have put on that I've attended in the past.
Can you say like what happened at these events?
Yeah, so like a couple, really there's a variety. So you can imagine some happen like at a bar where it's like, hey, buy a ticket to this thing, and everyone that's there for the most part is going to be single. Maybe there's some supportive friends that are in relationships. So you show up and you grab a drink and you kind of just like go and chat with people, knowing that the conversation, everyone's there for the same reason, which is kind of a helpful way to lower barriers. I think that meeting people in person, you have those questions like, are they single? Are they not? Am I bothering them? This is like a defined, safe space to go engage with people, which I think is a very good thing. But on the other hand, I think that people are kind of like trying to like really answer those compatibility questions very, very quickly when they're in these spaces. And I think that like my recommendation, what I've always done, is just like go in there to meet friends, go in there to meet people, like go there just to be yourself and be social, and don't have the goal of like, if I don't walk away from this with someone's number, I've failed, or this has been the wrong thing. Like I think of it more as like a thing to do with fun people that are all interested in being social. When you go in with that, I think it can be really great.
That's a really good tip, and I want to get more tips from you, but tell me more about, okay, so you said there was an event where that your friends put on. What other types of events did you go to?
I've been to a live dating show where, people were on stage doing blind dating. I was a contestant.
You were a contestant.
I was a contestant on it. This is a year ago. I'm up there like behind a curtain talking to other people on the other side of the curtain and like getting to know them. And while I wouldn't say that is it wasn't fruitful for me and like finding someone that was a great match for me, I actually think it was a really useful exercise in just like getting in my comfort zone about like knowing I am single, I can have conversation, I can chat with a stranger and just like make communication happen for 10, 20 minutes. I think it like lowered a bit of anxiety for me about like talking to a stranger in person, because I had to do it in front of 100 people, and it was all fine. Like beforehand, I was like truly out of breath, like having like a small like stage fright, like a panic attack, and then I got up and I'm like, this isn't that hard, because the person over there is just another person.
Right. I love that. Did you know that I was also on a dating show once?
I had no idea.
Okay, so in Seattle, when I was single, I did actually, I guess this wasn't really a singles event, but it was an improv show where basically it was called, I actually forget what it was called, but it was the show where they review your profile live in front of everyone, like on a projector, and then they do an improv sets based on what's in your profile. So it was like, it's kind of hilarious. Just that you're basically getting roasted by all these people doing improv.
I love that.
It was so fun, and I didn't get any dates from it either. But I had a lot of women come up to me like, "You're so hot," because I was like, "Hey, I'll take it," and people did, because Seattle's kind of a small town. People did recognize me after that. They're like, "I saw you at that show."
Totally. I've had that happen too as well after that show. Not only was an ex-girlfriend's sister in the crowd, but also someone I went to high school with. And then over the course of a couple of weeks, people were like, weren't you that guy on that show? Especially because it was specifically in the Jewish community. That was a little bit of a smaller world. But I'll say one more thing I've done, which is not exactly dating, event, but is adjacent, is like, I have friends that host dinners often at their places, and they often make an effort to invite people that they think might be kind of compatible and have a good time and a good conversation. And I've just like really leaned into saying yes, because at worst, great time to see friends, meet people that I could be new friends with. And at best, I think like, meeting people that might be a compatibility option.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You get to expand your network a lot that way too. Okay. So you mentioned a couple of tips here. You said to go into these events looking to make friends. You said to go into these events not to date necessarily, but to build confidence, talking to other single people and like literally you're putting yourself out there, you're on stage. That kind of eliminates so much fear. Like after that, you're like, I was on stage dating. I can walk up to someone, at a coffee shop and ask them out.
100%. I mean, I think in all interactions, and this is maybe what makes online dating so specifically different, because you're going the only outcome of online dating that respects the other person's time is that you are intentionally going on a date with the goal of some sort of romantic connection. If you're open about it, it can be physical, it could be emotional. As long as you guys are on the same page, that is the goal. But if you meet someone in person or at an event or at a friend's house, like there's so many ways that it could go. It could be a friendship. It could be, you know, a date or romantic interest. And I think that what that means is that you can just enter those moments with so much less pressure on it, because the worst case outcome is not actually like a bad outcome. And I think that it just like really does make things feel a little smoother, as long as you kind of take away from yourself, like, if I don't marry this person or if they're not my person, like I have failed. I think that's like a thing that like I certainly felt for myself early on, and now I find it much easier to just like show up for dates with confidence and show up to meet people in general, because I don't have that expectation kind of at the end.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I really appreciate you sharing that and like opening up about that, because I think a lot of people can relate. You know, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves in these situations. Yeah. What would you say to someone who's like, I want to go to a singles event, but I'm kind of scared?
First, I'd say bring a friend.
Okay.
You know, I think like one of the easiest things you can do is just show up with someone, whether they're taken or not. You know, I think just like having someone there with you that, you know, like if you go and grab a drink at the bar, you turn around, there's no one to talk to that you feel like comfortable going to. There is someone there for you is like a really nice thing. But, you know, caveat this with like, make sure that you, with that person, step out of your comfort zone a little bit. Like, don't just spend the entire time standing with them, you know, scanning kind of the crowd and who's out there, because I think you can fall into that comfort really easily too.
What do you think of this? I recently got a DM from someone who was like, I went out with my friends and there were a bunch of cute guys I want to talk to, but I felt bad about ditching my friends. Like, what's the protocol there? If you're out and what do you think?
I think it's totally reasonable as long as you tell your friends that you know, see someone across the room that you're interested in, right? Like, hopefully your friends know you well enough to know that like you are interested in meeting someone, you want to find someone, and they'll be supportive in that, right? Yep. So like, I wouldn't just like be like, hey, yes, absolutely, we're doing a dinner at my place, and then, you know, 5 minutes before, like, sorry, can't host anymore, I'm out of here.
Oh yeah,
right?
no. I just mean, like when you're out, already out. Well, okay, but it can go the other way. I mean, in college, like I used to literally just vanish from my friends, and they would be like, "Well, it's 11:30. I guess Talia's vanished with a guy somewhere." Like, it's like you don't want to do that every time, because you might not be invited out anymore.
Totally. I mean, I think that like times when I've been with guy friends, I'm seeing someone right now, so this is a little past tense, but like when I'm with guy friends and see someone across the bar, I think it's often, if it's a group of people, at least one of my other guy friends can join in with me and like kind of go in and say hello. It also like lowers the pressure, creates more of a social environment, not this like one-on-one kind of like laser focused thing. But then I can like look at my friends and say, hey guys, I think I want to keep on talking to this woman. Like, I'll catch up with you later, you know? Yeah. And that's it. Like, I don't think there's anything disrespectful as long as the night wasn't a dedicated time to really be like supportive like for someone, a birthday or someone had a hard week and you're trying to like, you know, make them feel better. But I think if you're just like going out to be social, 100%, just tell them what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, so something that comes up a lot is approaching in public. I mean, we've talked about this before, but I think you have a little more experience now. Like this past year, you've been testing different things, you've been trying out different things. Have you done this successfully? Like, have you actually met someone in the wild and like went on a date?
Yes, 100%. Multiple times. I've met someone in public, even when I was like in my early 20s. I tried to approach people and kind of put myself in that position. Yeah. First things first is, am I in a situation where I feel like this person can accept some sort of hello from me, right? So someone's, you know, headphones in, on their phone, walking on the street very, very quickly. No, I'm not going to get in someone's way, flag them down and say, hey, sorry, I don't mean to bother. Like, that's just, they're doing their own thing, right? You and I differ on this. You say don't approach the gym. Sorry, you say do approach the gym.
It's fine.
I'm not a gym approach person, but that's maybe just my own anxiety saying that I shouldn't. But I think, so it's situationally, one, I'm in a situation where I feel like this person can accept, you know, some sort of approach. Right. Two is, I think to myself, okay, what is something I can comment on about our situation that might be more natural than just like saying something like, hi, I'm Alex, nice to meet you, you know, because I feel like that's kind of a little odd, right? So, you know, the classic is you're in a bookstore, they're holding a book, ask about the book, you know? If you're in line at a pastry shop, just be like, is this a get one of everything situations, they all look really good, right? Like
anything like that. It's such a pleasant comment.
Yeah. And like, I feel like if it's something I could say to anybody, whether it's someone, I'm hetero, so another guy, then it's a comment I can make to a woman and have her feel comfortable too, right? So if I'm at a pastry shop and I'm talking about the donuts that are in front of us, like that's not a comment that would make anyone uncomfortable, because I could talk about it with a grandmother, I could talk about my best friend.
I love that.
And so like, if that is the test, I feel like it's really easy to start conversations up with people, right? In my elevator in my building, I don't hit on people in my building because that's just not, like, that's a space.
You don't want to cross that line.
Exactly. But it's a great place for me to just like strike a conversation with strangers. And if I can say it to a female, resident of the building who is roughly my age, or I could say it to a 60-year-old man who also lives in my building, then it's probably a decent line to, quote unquote, open up with.
I love that advice so much. It's so simple. It's a great test of like, if what I'm saying right now, would it land with anyone I'm in the elevator with, or anyone I'm in this cafe with, then I could probably say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not be creepy or weird or like
exactly
overdoing it, or I don't know. Yeah.
100%. So I think about like a Drake and Josh episode I watched as a kid. It's so crazy. But like there's this episode where they have a bet about who can get more phone numbers. And obviously Drake is like the cool kind of hot one, and Josh is like the awkward one. And Josh's mom tells him like, just walk up to a girl, tell her you like her shoes, and then just walk away. And he does this, like, I think it's somewhere in public, and like the girl's like, wait, you weren't hitting on me? It's like, no, I just like your shoes. And like she gives him her number. And I think this line too, like the fact that it's just like, you just say something you could say to anybody, nice shoes, or comment on where you are or something. And like, I think a lot of people can pick that up. And then finally, it's about watching the body language in response to your question.
Right.
Do they respond curtly and go, turn away and go back to what they were doing? Do they say, oh yeah, no, I honestly, I had that donut last time, but I'm going to try this one this time. Right.
If they engage with you, if they riff, if they're,
And I think that the goal here is we're still not thinking about how do I get this person's number? How do I go on a date? We're still just trying to have a conversation. Right. And so if the goal, the outcome is just like have a pleasant interaction with a stranger, then again, there's no rejection. When the conversation ends, you kind of just nod and you're kind of like, cool, I talked to somebody. But if the conversation keeps on going, then at some point you can say like, hey, listen, I don't want to assume anything, but like, this is one thing, I always give my number. I never take their number.
Oh, okay.
I say, if you're interested, like, I want to give you my number to call me sometime. It was nice to meet you. And if not, no worries. And I end the conversation. There's no waiting and for what they're going to say, because it puts all the power in their hands to make a decision on their own time. I know that as a 6'3" dude in public, it'd be a little scary to have some guy like sit in their way, like, are you going to say yes or no? You know? And so for me, I think it's a little bit of like, just let them decide, in a moment. They can text their friends, but this guy asked me out, should I go do it? Whatever, get that that social support, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they can text me the same day, next day, whatever.
Do you give them your name? Do you think they're looking you up?
I don't mind if they look me up, because frankly,
And I think that's a norm, right?
Yeah.
Where it's 2025, like people are looking you up on. Assume like if you're going on a date with someone, they're going to look you up online at some point. Yeah.
Exactly. Actually, funny enough, I keep my Instagram public, not for this purpose at all, but I don't know. I guess the things that I share on social, on the internet, are things that I wouldn't mind anybody seeing, they're about like a dog, or like where I went on vacation or something, right? And so like, I just feel like there's always going to be an internet profile of me forever, because we live in a digital world.
Right.
Let me just make sure the stuff that I put on the internet is stuff that I feel totally fine everyone knowing about me, right? I know everyone has different privacy. I respect anyone who keeps theirs private, but like...
Yeah, I think for women, it's a little different. It's like you don't want people to know where you're going often or places you frequent, obviously. But like, I hear you saying it's like you're allowing people to approach you online. You're allowing the person you're giving the number to, like, hey, you can look me up. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I also just want to say, like, this is not something I'm doing super often. It's not like I've challenged myself every day to like meet a new person or whatever. Like that to me is not that goes right back into the problems with online dating, right? Like, I think we get right back into this like quantity problem, where there's like the issue of choice, and like nothing feels special or exciting. And so like, this is the kind of thing that happens to me, I don't know, once a month. Like this is like really not that often.
And that's probably a lot. That's probably more higher than average.
For sure. Yeah. And so like, when you really think about the times that I've been in relationships versus out, I mean, like, this has probably happened to me twice in the last year, right? Because I've been in and out of different things. And I'd say over the course of my lifetime, I've probably, given my number to, certainly it's definitely not in the hundreds, and like maybe even less than like the multiple tens, right? And it's like, I think it goes back to the moment of like, I'm talking about random strangers on the street, not someone I met at a party or something like that. But like, it makes them all feel special when that person texts you and they're excited to go out or learn more about you. I think like those are all really memorable moments, and what makes in real life dating like so special and so exciting.
Okay, let's flip it around. Tell me about what you think about women approaching you. I mean, I know we've talked about this a little bit, so we don't have to go too deep because I know you've said you love it. But like, what are some tips for the women and men listening for approaching?
I think that it's exactly the same thing what I said earlier about if you could say it to anybody, you can say it to someone you're interested in. That's like the line. It would brighten my day if someone just started the conversation and I had some choice to be like, continue the conversation, be sweet and be friendly and have no pressure on it, or then just turn the tables and feel like I could actually kind of re-engage and kind of push towards that thing and see if we're both in a mutual interest, right? And so if someone approached me, I would hope they would approach me just with a conversation and just like say hello and connect around their environment that we're in, whether it's a party or out in public or whatever. And then we see where it goes from there, right? Because it gives me a moment at least to kind of like get a feel for them, their energy, etc. I think that's the other thing that's magical about in person is that there's just things you learn about seeing someone like literally in the world that you cannot get from the 6 photos on someone's, digital profile.
Hinge is two-dimensional. I always say you can't be attracted to this two-dimensional experience, like truly attracted to a two-dimensional experience with someone. But when you meet them in person, you see their energy, like their outfit that day, their kind of their vibe.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we get like a little closer with things like voice notes on apps which are useful. I think that, sometimes you can hear someone's voice and feel whether or not they're like, you just vibe with the way they talk and the way they communicate. But I think so much happens in the way someone stands and gestures and all these tiny little things I don't think any of us consciously pick up on, but are a huge part of attraction and connection.
Yeah, for sure. So last time you came on, we talked about, or not, I don't know, one of the times you came on, we talked about this project that you're working on called Random Acts of Dating. And so
named it.
That I named it, I guess. I forgot that I named it.
I called her one day. I was like, hey, I've got this idea for something. Like, what would you call it? And she like in an instant was like Random Acts of Dating. I'm like, great. Bought the domain in a second.
Love
and
it.
That was it.
I'm so glad. So for people who are new to this concept, can you explain what this is or what this started as?
Yeah, I'm a software engineer. Like that's been my world is like building products. And I always like come at problems from like, how could I make something to make this easier, right? And so the hypothesis was that people want to meet in real life, but there's a lot of barriers to actually like going to say hello to someone, sharing information, and kind of just normalizing that interaction a little bit more. And so the idea was, what if you could have a card you kept in your pocket that had your information on it, that when you walked up to someone, you could say, hey, I don't want to bother you. I thought you were cute. I liked your shoes, whatever. I wanted you to have this card and I hope you have a nice day.
Yeah.
And then you just walk away. And like I said earlier, put the control in their hands to decide whether or not they're interested. But on this card, the key components were your name and phone number and optionally your social media presence. So people can look you up and do that research a little bit about you, similar to a dating profile, maybe a little less, cultivated than a dating profile. And the magic part about these cards that, as I envisioned them, was not just that you could hand them to someone, they could look you up, but also if they weren't interested, they could reset the card with their information and pass it to someone else.
Yeah,
so
that's so cool.
So the idea was like, how can we foster more in-person interactions by just like getting these cards out in the world and letting people decide their own adventure, whether or not they want to reach back out to that person or simply use it for themselves to meet someone else. Or maybe they start dating and they give it to a friend to start a new chain with, right? And so that was the idea behind Random Acts of Dating cards.
Thank you for the refresher. So how's it going? Has there been any developments?
Yeah, I can safely say that people have met people they're dating through Random Acts of Dating cards.
That's so cool.
Yeah. It's amazing. So I made these, really for myself, and then I talked about it briefly on the podcast a few months ago. I think like more than 100 people made their own cards.
Yeah. No, people were DMing me about it. Like,
And I've seen, because, I don't look at anyone's personal information, but I can see when certain interactions happen, like just for analytics. I know when people scan the card or when they start a text conversation. And so I've seen this stuff start to happen. And then I revamped the cards. I was like, these look like crap. They were made on paper, cut out with like scissors. You could like print them out in your own home printer, like a little QR code on them.
You gotta start somewhere.
Exactly. It's version version 1, we've got to do something. And so I revamped the cards, and
Can we see them?
I will show you in a second, but then I made them NFC chips as well, which is actually a lot better for privacy, because I was a little worried people would share photos of the QR codes online, that anyone could contact that person.
Right.
And so I reimagined these cards. I've been hand making every single one of them. If you're looking at video, there's 5 designs. I'll give them my sister, but I made 5 different designs, had some friends help out.
We'll do a close-up on these, but this one says, hold on, just go through these. This says you're cute, and it's like a little hand wave. This says, we're all just waiting for a meet cute story. This one says, I think you're cute, with a little winky. This one is is this like a cookie and a brownie holding hands?
I think it's just 2 little shapes that are
it's
like, falling in love.
Holding hands.
And
and then this one just says, I think you're cute, in like a text message. And then there's another like text bubble with the 3 dots. Like,
it looks like iMessage on an iPhone. Yeah.
I mean, I remember I went through the designs with you. I think they came out amazing.
Thank you.
I love the... it's like a business card, but it definitely is different than a business card. It's like a little slimmer.
For sure.
There's this button on the back. There's like little instructions that says, this person who gave you this card thinks you're cute. Tap your phone on the spot and learn more about them, or reset the card and pass it on.
So really simple instructions.
Before we move on, I want to hear from listeners. If you're listening or watching, let us know in the comments on Spotify or YouTube what you think of this. If you like this update, if you like the concept, if you hate the concept, please let us know in the comments. We want to know.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard a lot of different thoughts about this, both a ton of positivity, which is like, this would really lower both the pressure when you're approaching someone, but also as a receiver, getting this card means that you, again, get to decide on your own time how to respond or whether to respond. You don't have to worry about that person like sticking around and how you reject them. And then
the website isn't on there.
It's not on there. Yeah. But then secondarily, I've gotten some, feedback. It's like, why can't we just talk to people anymore? Why can't you just walk up? I don't want my information saved digitally, things like that. And I think that like everyone's going to approach dating differently. Some people never want to date. Some people only want to date someone they meet through their communities. They want to, really go wild on the apps and meet as many people as they possibly can. I think that like this isn't for everybody.
No.
But I think for people that really do believe in that in real life meet cute, this is such a tiny little flattering moment to walk up to someone and just say, I recognize you from afar. I recognize something in you, your energy, your look, your confidence. And I wanted to give you this token of appreciation of the fact that we cross paths, and you can decide how you want to take that on. And that, I think, is what a card means. I've had people say, how do I know that the person isn't just handing out 100 of these, right? There's like this whole quantity issue. And I can tell you all that I, being the person who built this, limit the number of cards someone can have. So it's not possible for someone to have 100 cards just
with the
throwing
QR
them
code?
Out. Both digitally, I make it so that the cards you can't have your number associated with more than a certain number of cards. But I also won't sell. There's not an option to buy that many cards on the website. And to be clear, this is not really a business for me. This is like covering the cost of producing these cards and mailing them to people.
This is a side fun project.
I have a job. I do things, but like this is really my effort to try to like make dating. I mean, you do so much great work in like making dating just like more accessible to so many people. This is my approach to take my background, which is really in building products and just like lower that barrier and make more people meet in person.
Well, where can people check it out?
Yeah, randomactsofdating.com. The cards are on there. You can. I'm literally in my apartment making these cards one by one and then putting them in envelopes and then like hand addressing these things, then mailing them through like the post office. Like that's how this is all happening. And I've shipped out hundreds of these cards now all across America. Weirdly enough, very few to New York.
Why do you think that is?
If I'm being totally honest, I think most people have heard about this through TikTok, and for some reason my TikTok got onto like Arkansas and Canada like loops. Like, I don't know why, but there's a lot of Canada and a lot of like Middle America.
But do you think maybe in New York it's just people like think it's less needed?
I really don't. Again, being in New York and talking to people and meeting people in person, I've given a lot of these cards in person to friends and peers that are single for them to use, and they're all really excited because we've all had that moment where we're in the coffee shop, we're running out to work, we don't have time to start a conversation, we do see someone, we don't want to lose that moment. This is that thing where we're on the subway and like, I don't want to like bother a woman on the subway and make her feel like she has to get off the train or something because this guy might follow her. Like, I'm not that person, but she doesn't know that, right?
Yeah. That's fair. Well, I'm excited to see where it goes, especially after this comes out. Do you want to do some rapid fire Q&A?
Love some rapid fire Q&A.
All right. Okay, so I always ask people on Instagram when my brother's coming on, what questions can we answer? And you got a lot of different questions all across the board here. So this is just about meeting in person. This is all across dating. How do I communicate that I need more physical touch in the beginning?
That's a great question. I think there's two things that come to mind for me. One is you yourself initiate a little bit more physical touch. I'm not saying anything too wild or overly intimate, but I think that like when you feel like you want to hold hands with someone, like it is okay to like tap their hand as you're walking on the street, kind of like indicate that you want to have that physical touch moment, right? These like small little things that show someone that that's what they're looking for. But I think secondarily, if you really feel like the person's not taking you up on kind of those little indicators, one thing that I think is really reasonable is to like, as a fun conversation, say, what are your love languages? Like, what is your receiving and what is your giving love language, right? And so you can ask someone like, how do you give love? How do you receive it? And when you're talking to them, you can say, one of the most important ones to me is receiving physical touch. So you can actually say, like, if you want to show me love, one of the ways that I receive it best is by being given physical touch. And like, I think just like telling someone what you want and what you're interested in is so reasonable. You do it in a constructive way, not a combative way, right?
You're making a request. You're informing someone, like,
Absolutely.
maybe doesn't know this about you. I think I like what you said. I'd add like asking them about what they like when it comes to physical touch, like just so you can understand. Maybe they like to take things slower. And maybe there's a reason why they haven't held your hand or kissed you yet. And it's like, you can ask like, what's your stance on this? Like, maybe they're not a fan of PDA. Maybe there's something like that.
Totally. I think like there's so many ways to frame it besides you're not kissing me enough or you're not, holding my hand enough. You can say, oh my God, I really love when you held my hand yesterday. Like, I'm looking forward to more of that. Like, I think there's just like ways to kind of like take the small moments and say you're looking for more of it and kind of go with a positive spin versus I'm not having enough of this.
Yeah. I love how we just like completely defeated the purpose of rapid fire. But you give good answers. You give good answers. Okay. How long should you wait to make it official in a relationship?
Oh, it's so different for everybody. I mean, there's no like hard line.
What do you think though? Like, if you had to give someone an answer.
Yeah, I think that this is such a tough one. I think you should be first thinking about your needs and why do you feel the need to kind of put a label on something. I think there's a reasonable kind of expectation that if your next goal is to have to meet your family, if you want to meet friends, I think it's nice to kind of be able to tell people what this is. So they can kind of set their expectations around it. So I think that's a reasonable time when you feel like it's right to have them move more as a part of your life and kind of a partner in things. It's nice to be able to kind of like set a stake in the ground for what that is. When that happens, though, I think is so different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know people that wait a year before they meet, each other's.
But make it official, like I'm your girlfriend, I'm your boyfriend. Like, I think for me, I mean, the average I've seen is around 3 months of dating. Like
that came to mind for me too, honestly.
That's like typically the mark.
But I wouldn't make it a hard and fast rule.
No, we're not making hard and fast rules here. It's just like, that's a good benchmark to aim for, but you might not feel ready because it really depends on how often you see each other. If you're seeing each other once a week for 3 months, that probably isn't enough time. But if you're seeing each other 2 to 3 times a week for 3 months, you probably spend enough time together to make it official.
For me, also, one thing is like everything's in stages. I have tended to have the exclusivity talk before I've had the label talk, especially from a safety perspective. I think there's just like a comfort in knowing someone's really, dedicate themselves to this singularly, but then also just from a safety perspective, knowing that like if you are physical, intimate, that you don't have to be worrying about like anything that's going on, safety first. And so I think it's very easy to have that exclusivity conversation and it doesn't require labels.
So that's totally fair. Well, I hope that helps. That answer helps. This is one I'm not sure how to even answer. What kind of guy do you think could handle dating a travel nurse? Have you ever dated a travel nurse?
I've not dated a travel nurse, but one of my best friends is married to a travel nurse.
Okay. Do you have any tips?
I think that like if your intention is to stay a travel nurse and to keep with kind of a lifestyle that has you moving around, finding someone who leans into remote or nomadic work is kind of the important thing. I don't think you should, change your life goals around the person that you go and date just to kind of say like, I can't find anyone who meets my needs. So I'm going to totally change like a very core part of yourself, which is your career. And I think like that person doesn't need to have a remote, flexible job right now, but I do think that finding someone who just like feels this affinity towards kind of having a softer definition of home and like, having flexibility.
Hearing your answer just makes me think like if I was in this situation, I'd be perfect for dating a travel nurse because I loved like being an air plant and just kind of not having roots anywhere, just like moving around and different places.
And I'm the opposite because I love to have a home base. Like I really nest truly, and I love to travel, but it's always like out and back. Like I don't want to live out of a suitcase.
I love living in different places. So that just kind of clicked for me as I was hearing you talk about it. A great answer. Why are men so quiet these days? No questions, no comments, no approaching first.
I hear this all. I see it on your content all the time. I hear it, from peers, my friends who are women who are going out with guys being like, I don't understand why people just don't talk on dates. Like there's a lot of that, like, did I have a fun time or am I just fun? It's something I hear, all the time. And I don't have a good answer for this one because I don't think I'm this person. Like I think that I make an active effort to listen and ask and engage.
Do you know people like this? Like your guy friends?
I've never watched one of my guy friends on a date, but I want to believe that my guy friends, at least the people I try and surround myself with, have the kind of personal they understand themselves and to like know that they should be asking questions and to listen in. I think it's some of my closest friends who who I can't imagine them talking for 2 hours straight without asking a single question.
Me either.
But I don't have a good piece of advice for how to bring that up on a date. No one's ever had to ask me that thing.
I have a whole episode on what to do if someone doesn't ask you questions on a date, and I'll link that in the show notes. But I think my bottom line is if you don't enjoy talking to them, just don't date them. It has to be fun. So that's really the answer.
Yeah, I mean that I think really resonates with me as well, which is don't go on more dates hoping at some point they will become interested in hearing your perspective. Try and find someone who is simply interested in hearing your perspective.
Can I share some of your date experiences?
Sure.
Okay. This question kind of reminds me, and what you just said reminds me of some of the calls that I've had from you throughout this year on your first dates of people who are like, wow, that was really tough. I really had a hard time talking to that person. And you're a good guy. So you definitely had a hard time being they're a good person, but this conversation, I was carrying it on my back. And, you ultimately didn't see them again. But I just also want to point out, it doesn't just happen to women. This also happens to men.
Well, I guess my perspective sometimes I feel like I've had to kind of be a cruise ship captain, and try
what?
and try no, you have to kind of create the fun, the activity, the structure for everyone else to have a good time, and that's kind of what a cruise ship captain.
If I was your therapist, I'd unpack the shit out of that. But I'm not.
What I mean is that I feel like there's sometimes when I ask questions, and I don't know if people are surprised, don't expect to, or just don't have much to say, but I'm I want to hear more, and I've almost found that some women have kind of pulled back and kind of have maybe unfortunately learned that they're not supposed to have as loud of a voice in the conversation, and that shouldn't be the case. And I try to pull people out of their shells. I think it's I really, really do my best on, and so people just don't want to get there.
Yeah, I think it's that, and also sometimes people show up to a date in a certain mood, and maybe they're just not having a super chatty day, and they didn't want to cancel the date. I think that there's people have a lot going on in their lives, and I think that they bring all that to the date too sometimes, and maybe you just catch them on a day where they're not feeling super chatty.
I once accidentally scheduled a date for the night that the elections were being tallied.
Did the date happen?
The date happened, and we're both sitting there and just totally we can't not be talking about what's happening, and we did end up going on another date because I was the conversation was good, but it was very tense. But I'm I need to have another chance to actually have a real conversation.
What's your vibe when it's not election night?
Right. That's exactly how that went.
All right, I'll do one more. Why would a guy pull back after 3 dates?
I mean, there's so many different reasons. And the first thing I want to say is if someone pulls back, don't assume that it's you. There have been times where I have, gone on a couple initial dates with two people in a similar time frame, and it just so happens that I meet someone that I'm really excited to spend time with, and I want to go and dedicate myself to that more, and it had nothing to do with the other person being, not a high quality person or fun or something, but it becomes this moment where you kind of have to make a choice. That's one way things happen. Two, some people aren't really good at balancing work life or family life, etc. And they could just find themselves overwhelmed and just say, this is a new thing that frankly isn't as important to me as these other parts of my life that are happening because it's so new. It's just it's kind of it hasn't really solidified in their life yet. And so they just kind of let it fall away. It could be that there's a miss in the way that you guys are connecting and they learn something about you that misaligns with their values, their interests or something, and they're just bad at communicating it, right? It's I think the way that I always think about these things, it's not just me and the other person. It is the third entity, which is how we meet between each other. And that is often most of the time, the actual issue at hand is like that there's an incompatibility between us. Not there's something wrong with that person. There's a thing I need that they don't have, or a thing they need that I don't have, and that comes out over the course of a couple of dates. And I think the problem that what I'm guessing here is that the people that they've been out with just don't do a good job of communicating that thing.
Yeah.
So it feels like there's something wrong with me, you know?
That's where your mind goes. That's that's the first place your brain goes. And I love what you said. It's like, it's not you, it's not me, it's a thing in the middle. It's like the Venn diagram of us, like the middle part just isn't doing it for one of the people. That's fine. But yeah, I think that what's frustrating, and this person who's writing, and the frustration comes from being in the dark, not knowing, because there is like a point in dating where you're not sure yet. So you don't say anything. You can't communicate because you don't have anything to communicate yet.
Yeah.
So there is that like space between when you're just caught in the middle of it. And I think that's the really tough part. So I like your advice. Don't assume it's you right away. Yeah, remember that people, I like what you said about like some people get overwhelmed and they just have other stuff going on in life. And yeah, like sit in the discomfort. Don't do anything to like try to get a reaction or communication from them. Wait for them to figure it out. Or you can decide, okay, like this person has been breadcrumbing me for a week, or I haven't heard from them for a week. So I'm just going to decide to step away. You don't have to like endure that much pain, is what I'm trying to say.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And like, I think that when you're in a bit of like an abundant mindset about like the existence of people out there, you start to take these things a little less personally and just be like, that wasn't the one. So let's just go to the next, because that is kind of it. Now, of course, you don't want to get on a treadmill where you just say there's always someone else out there, so you don't care about things. But I think that when someone shows a lack of interest in you, it is very reasonable to say, great, that is the indicator I need. They're not the person for me. Yeah. So just move on from
I always said they're doing the work for you.
That's so true. 100%.
Yeah. Did you want to do one more?
Yeah, there's one more in here. Where do you meet people in real life? In New York City specifically, this question was, but I think just in general as well. Is this funny thing where I think to myself, like, where am I when I'm single on like the average Wednesday
like
or Friday
everywhere,
night?
dude.
I'm nowhere.
What? I feel like whenever you call me, you're like walking to the subway, you're out. Like it's every day. Sometimes multiple times a day, you're calling me like walking to the subway. So.
But that just happens to be that like it's usually to and from work. And I'm like, this is the 5 minutes I have between leaving the elevator and getting on the subway to call you.
All right.
Like I think my social life lives in a couple of different buckets, but it certainly does not live in bars on Friday night, out with the guys, you know, whatever else. You know, the places where I am not simply sitting in my apartment doing things like either work or just taking it easy, making dinner, whatever, is dinners with friends, usually at people's apartments. So I'm rarely going out to like the restaurant.
You're not a big restaurant guy.
No, I'm not. This is just me. But I think that's where I say to anyone, if you can find communities that are centered around kind of like in apartment or in-house kind of things. I know you host like game nights here with your friends in the neighborhood. I think it's very, very fun as a way to like engage with people. And you can also be the peer person that invites people to yours, right? Like you can be the creator of this community too. I don't know if you know this, but once a month I host a dinner for 10 strangers in my apartment.
Is that through an organization?
There's a group called Tiny Dinner in New York City that's that I'm a host with, but I invite generally 7 or 8 people, 1 or 2 people from the Tiny Dinner community come in, and like it's not about dating, but the point is like that is a place where people just get more network, and network is where you kind of like find more and more people. And so other places, there's a fun, I've seen like TikToks about this, like go to the sports bar on a Sunday afternoon, don't go to the swanky cocktail bar, because like the guys that are like chill and relaxing and like have their hobbies and their friends, they're like not going to like put on super nice clothes and hang out and buy a $25 cocktail. They're going to be hanging and like having a good time with their interests, right? Yeah. The game is simply a proxy for the things they are interested in, right?
Totally.
And so I think just finding places where people do the things they're interested in is a big thing. I know West Side Highway is huge right now, like running, etc.
Oh my God.
I hear about I'm not a runner. My God, I've never run more than a mile in my life, but I know people are really getting into that too.
Yeah, this has been so great. You've given us so much wisdom today. I feel like I'm not even single. I feel amped up to get out there and meet people. You know? Yeah. Is there any final thoughts you want to share with the listeners today?
I think that in real life connections, whether it's dating or friends or anything, there's a loneliness, I think, epidemic people talk about, and even just like person-to-person connection really just comes from being your own catalyst. That is, you know, walking on the street and saying, you know what, today when I see that person, I am going to walk up and say hello. Or it is, you know what, I'm going to text some friends I haven't seen in a while and just like have them over for like wine night or for to watch a movie or something. You know, like we all want these moments. We're all waiting to be invited to the thing, asked to the thing, etc. And we sometimes forget that we can be the person that does that ourselves, that we create and facilitate those environments. And so to everyone listening, I know this community to be amazing when I see all your comments and everything. Like, I'm positive that just given like a second of what could I do to like re-engage with people and be, broader in friendship and broader in reaching out to people, that there's so many ways you could do that. So, dating aside, I do think these things compound. Just like be the person that creates the environments you want to see for yourself. And I think that like life will happen.
Oh, beautiful. Alex, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Always so fun.